Okay, so think about this. You get paid, you pull out your phone, open the banking app, and boom, deposit your money. It feels safe, right? Secure, like it's just sitting there tucked away. But have you ever really, really thought about what happens the instant you hit that confirm button? Yeah, because let me tell you, it's not just sitting in some digital vault with your name on it, waiting for you to come back. Nope. The second you hand it over, your money starts this incredible and sometimes, yeah, kind of risky journey through the whole financial system. So let's actually follow it. Let's see where it goes. And this right here, this is probably the single biggest thing you need to get your head around when it comes to banking. When you deposit money, you're not just storing it. What you're actually doing is giving the bank a loan. That's right, you are loaning them your money. And their main goal? It's to take that loan from you and use it to make a ton of money for themselves. So, to make this super clear, we're going to follow the journey of just one single $100 bill. Let's trace its path and see exactly how the bank puts your money to work from the very second it's out of your hands. All right, so the first thing that happens, your $100 gets split up. It's not just sitting there as a whole, no way. It gets instantly chopped up and put into different buckets. A little bit goes into cash reserves, a way bigger chunk gets set aside for loans, and the rest, that gets put into investments. So let's break down what each of those really means. Okay, first up, cash reserves. This is basically the bank's walking around money. You know, for when you need to pull cash out of an ATM or whatever, it's what they need for day-to-day stuff. Now, back in the day, banks had to keep something like 3 to 10% of all deposits right there on hand. That rule's actually gone now, but the idea behind it isn't. Today, big banks still have to have enough liquid cash, easily accessible money to handle a full 30 days of withdrawals if things go sideways. So, if only a tiny piece is kept as cash, what in the world happens to the rest of it? Well, this is where the bank's real business kicks in. This is how your deposit turns into their profit-making machine. You know, the bank's business model is actually pretty simple when you boil it down, and it's incredibly profitable. Step 1, they take your money. Step 2, they lend and invest that money out at a higher interest rate than they pay you. Step 3, they collect all that interest and those returns. And step 4, well, the difference is pure profit. It's this powerful, constantly spinning wheel, and it's all powered by our deposits. And this is how they build that steady, reliable river of income. Think about it. A little piece of your $100 could become part of a family's 30-year mortgage down the street. Another little slice might help someone buy a car with a 5-year loan. Or maybe it helps a local business get off the ground. And on every single one of those loans, the bank is just sitting back, collecting interest. Month after month, year after year, sometimes for decades. Now, besides just lending it out, banks also make what are considered safe bets. They'll take your deposit money and use it to buy things like government bonds. You can just think of a bond as a loan to the government, and they're seen as super stable, you know? They pay a predictable amount of interest, and they're backed by the full faith of the government. What could go wrong? All right, so we've got loans, we've got these super safe government bonds. It all sounds pretty foolproof, doesn't it? But this is where we start to see the cracks in the system. This is where things get fragile. Because what happens when those safe investments suddenly aren't so safe anymore? Okay, this is so important to understanding what's been going on lately. Just imagine a bank bought billions of dollars in government bonds back when interest rates were basically zero. These bonds pay a tiny, fixed interest rate. Then, all of a sudden, the Fed starts jacking up interest rates. Now, new bonds are being sold that pay way, way more. So ask yourself, who on earth would want to buy the bank's old bonds that pay almost nothing? The answer is nobody. At least not unless the bank sells them at a massive discount. And just like that, overnight, the value of the bank's supposedly safe assets has just cratered. And on top of that problem, banks will sometimes chase even bigger profits by making riskier bets with your money. I'm talking about the stock market. Now, when the market is going up, hey, it's great for them. They make a killing. But if the market takes a nosedive, that can lead to absolutely huge, immediate losses for the bank. Look, this isn't just some theory we're talking about. We literally watched all of these risks, the bond problem, all of it, come together in a perfect storm. And the best way to see how this all plays out in the real world is to look at the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. So just remember what we said. Most of your money isn't just sitting in a vault. It's locked up in mortgages and bonds for years. So what happens when panic sets in? What happens when a ton of customers decide they all want their money back, right now at the exact same time? Well, that, my friends, is a bank run. And with SVB, the number was just mind-blowing. $42
billion. That's how much money customers tried to pull out in a single 24-hour period. I mean, to put that into perspective, that is more than the entire yearly economy of some countries, all being demanded from one bank all at once.
Of course, SVB didn't have $42 billion in cash just sitting there. Nobody does. To get that money, they had to start selling their assets fast. And what were their main assets? That huge portfolio of government bonds. But remember our problem? These were the old, low-interest bonds that were now worth much less. They had no choice but to dump them on the market at a huge loss just to get their hands on cash.
And this was the final nail in the coffin. That fire sale of bonds created a loss of $1.8 billion. For any bank, taking a hit of almost $2 billion in the blink of an eye, it's game over. It absolutely vaporized any remaining confidence in the bank. And that was it. The whole thing collapsed. The system just broke.
Which brings us full circle, right back to the beginning. We've followed your money's journey. We've seen how a simple deposit becomes part of this massive, complex web of loans and investments, a web that can make huge profits, but also hides these incredible risks. So after seeing how it all works and how fast it can all fall apart, it leaves you with one big question, doesn't it? Is your money really safe?